You are who you are at your core, now and forever.
You're wrong, and I can prove it.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Dots and Beyond. If you are new here, my name is Beth, and it is time for us to set up May in our bullet journals. So for this month, I am continuing my fierce fictional female series that I have been doing all year, and we are going to take a quick moment and flip back and see what we have done so far and what characters we have done so far in this series. I started off 2021 with Wonder Woman and my full year setup. This is just my word of the year page, which is Believe. And of course, this journal that I'm using, I did name after Wonder Woman. So it is named Diana here for the first half of the year. And then flipping over to January, which is probably still my favorite so far. And that is Okoye of Black Panther. Again, if you're new to my channel, I grew up in Kenya, and so that one is really near and dear to my heart. February, I did Lorraine from Atomic Blonde. And then March was Daenerys from Game of Thrones with this really neat dragon wing Dutch door. For April, I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and so I did go the sticker and printable route and kind of a scrapbook theme to celebrate the Gilmore Girls. They weren't even on my list originally, but they just kind of landed there. It felt right for the month of April. Of course, I'm about halfway through this April setup with this scrapbook style. Not necessarily sure it's something that I will do again. It is a little more difficult for me to work with. But I have enjoyed having a little bit of a break, and of course I set up the entire month all at once just to sort of have it out of the way. I will link all of those setups in the description box below, but let's go ahead and move on to the month of May. And this month I am choosing who's probably going to be a controversial character as far as my fierce fictional female series is concerned, and that is Harley Quinn. But nobody said that my fierce fictional females had to be heroes. They can be villains, they can be anti-heroes, and if you go back and watch my video on mental health and creating mental health trackers in your bullet journal, you'll find out that I am bipolar, and for that reason Harley Quinn is one of those characters that resonates with me, so we are going to go ahead and do her for May. There are a lot of iterations of Harley Quinn out there, including the film versions with Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey portrayed by Margot Robbie. But for cohesion, I decided to go ahead and stick with inspiration drawn directly from the 2019 Harley Quinn animated series that I believe is now airing on HBO Max since DC has moved all of their entertainment properties over there. So it is important for copyright purposes to know that all of my artwork is inspired directly from that animated series that is owned by DC Entertainment. Okay, let's get started. For this cover page, I am drawing inspiration directly from Harley's black and red outfit, where repeatedly we will see red stars and black diamonds. And I sort of repeated that to myself throughout the setup to make sure I got them correctly. And of course, I did mess up right off the bat. But I have a circle here because I do want to show the two sides of Harley Quinn's personality, both Harley Quinn as we know her in the animated series, and Dr. Harleen Quinzel, who was the psychiatrist who first was introduced as a love interest for the Joker in Batman the Animated Series in 1992. And of course she was a psychiatrist at Arkham Asylum before she became the infamous Harley Quinn. To draw this circle, I did use a compass starting with a very specific point in the journal, sort of in the midway. I needed it to be very exact because I do draw another circle on the opposing page in the exact same spot. But then I just traced it freehand, pulling the pen towards me on an arc and then turning the page. And because I'm right-handed, so I turn the page clockwise. If you're left-handed, you would turn the page counterclockwise to pull it towards you and sort of get that good arc on a circle. In addition to her signature black and red outfit, Harley does have a couple of weapons that she likes to use on a regular basis. One of those is a baseball bat. So in this picture, I do have her carrying that baseball bat, which is also black and red to match her outfit. You're going to see me draw this outfit a lot, and of course, Harley also has a bright red signature lip that goes along with this outfit. And then she would not be complete without her pink and blue ombre pigtails, of which she has opposing eye makeup. So when her right ponytail is pink, then her left eye makeup is pink. And I am using some Amazon brush pens just to blend these together. And then to get the lightest pink, I'm just putting some of that brush pen onto a plastic surface and blending it in with a little bit of water. The Amazon brush pens, very much like the Tombow dual brush pens, actually don't blend that well on the Archer and Olive paper together. They will start to sort of peel if you try to blend them too much. I know there are a lot of bullet journalists who would rather use paint for this very reason, but for this purpose it does work just enough for me to get that ombre pigtail into the picture. Now that I have Harley Quinn on the page, I'm going to turn the page and give you Harleen Quinn, Dr. Harleen Quinn, and then we are going to cut out that Dutch door so that you can flip back and forth between the two sides of Harley's personality. And again, I did mention earlier, and I have in previous videos, that I do live with bipolar disorder, and that is sort of one of the draws to Harley for me, is that she does have these two sides of her personality. Dr. Harley Quinn, of course, is much more subdued. We are going to go ahead and give her the same pop of a red lip, and then she'll have on a red shirt underneath her white doctor's coat. One of the reasons I chose the animated series version for Harley Quinn is that recreating an animated character is much easier for me to do on an artistic scale level. I do not profess to be an artist. I am a fairly good copier, but it was, again, a whole lot easier for me to recreate Harley as an animated character than trying to draw Margot Robbie. I did feel like this page was missing just a little bit of something, and I wasn't planning on putting pink and blue on the page, but I felt like it definitely needed to tie in to the crazy Harley Quinn. And so I decided to paint one half of the background for Dr. Quinzel pink and the other half for Dr. Quinzel blue. And then of course I am going to cut around one half of this circle. I do use a combination of a small pair of scissors as well as an X-Acto knife to get that cut clean. I used this same method in my son's custom bullet journal, which I will link above, for his February setup for 2021, which was RuPaul's Drag Race. And so I used this same sort of Dutch door method to turn RuPaul Charles from Guy RuPaul into Fabulous Queen RuPaul when you turn the page. To finish off the cover page, I am adding some black diamonds to counterbalance the red stars, as well as the header for May. And then I do look at Dr. Quinzel a little closer and realize that she needs a little bit of contrast. And so I'm going to color her clipboard black before moving on to the calendar page. For the May overview, I am going to continue to deviate from my standard linear calendar and set up a traditional grid calendar. This one's a little smaller than April. I'm setting this one up 5 grid spaces by 5 grid spaces. Last month I did do 6 by 6. And then I am going to cut off that edge right by the calendar and make another Dutch door on this page. I don't know why I'm doing the Dutch door so much this month, but it was what my inspiration led me to do for this Harley Quinn setup. You have seen me use that star stencil several times now. I will make sure and link it in the description box below along with the rest of my supplies. That particular stencil I picked up at Michael's. And then here at the bottom I am putting in more of those diamonds. Because the diamond is a shape that fits very well into the grid spacing, I have just been freehanding those diamond shapes and not using a stencil for those. This star stencil also got a lot of use when I did my Wonder Woman 2021 setup. So it has definitely been worth, I think, the $7 that I spent on that pack of stencils. To balance out the black on the page, not only am I going to do these diamonds down here on the bottom, but I'm also going to use the black on the header for the days of the week. What I have discovered with this Tombow dual brush pen instead of the Tombow dual brush pen is that my white gel pens actually write better over top of the Amazon Basics than they do the Tombow, and I'm not sure why that is. I do have a Sakura Pigma Micron brush pen as well, and the white gel pens write over it more cleanly than they do the Tombow brush pen as well. I do keep these black post-it notes handy just to get my gel pens rolling, and then we are going to go ahead and finish off the days of the week before moving on to my art element. Here I'm going to cut this Dutch door. Behind that Dutch door I am going to put my habit trackers for the month. This is another deviation for me. Normally I have a full wellness page where I put both my sleep tracker and my habit trackers, but I have a little something planned for my sleep tracker and a mental health tracker this month, which is fitting to go along with this Harley Quinn setup. For this habit tracker, I am putting the days of the month as well as the day of the week across the top. My trackers are on the left side. This month I am tracking my morning medication, low carb, low sugar, exercise, evening medication, and then read, write, and create. And then I will put some teeny tiny stars and diamonds underneath the word habits. And then I will mark my weekends with the same blue and pink from Harley's hair. Here on the right will be my artistic element for this particular page. And then I will also write down my goals on this page in a large diamond section that's going to be just to the left of Harley here. One element of the Harley Quinn television show is that she is trying to prove herself as a competent villain and get into the Legion of Doom. She thinks that if Joker can do it, she can do it too. So this particular drawing is of Harley, and she has a baseball cap on that says "Head Bitch in Charge." Things have been a little difficult for me lately, and I thought this would be a fun reminder that I am in charge and I am in control and I can make things happen for myself. So here I am putting in those larger diamonds that I will fill in again with black, but there in that center one I will leave space for me to put in my goals for the month. And of course it didn't matter how many times I repeated to myself, diamonds, black, stars, red. Here I do start coloring in this half of her outfit that is supposed to be red. And that's when I reached for my handy dandy Archer and Olive Neapolitan notepad and pulled out a piece of bright white paper so that I could go ahead and cover this up and still be able to color it in the appropriate color and fix my mistake. And those definitely come in handy for that purpose. I also use scraps of full sheet sticker paper to cut small areas if I need to clean up a mistake. That's a great way to use those scraps where you have cut around a self-made sticker and printed those at home. As you can probably tell from the length of this video and the speed at which I have this sped up, this setup did take me an extraordinarily lengthy period of time for a bullet journal setup. So I have about 4.5 hours of footage of me doing this, and I did do it mostly in one sitting. It was one of those days where I had the time, I was in the zone, and it was actually very cathartic for me. It was a day that I definitely needed to focus on something other than work or home, and so I just went all in on this setup and got it knocked out in one go. I typically dedicate about an hour and a half for a monthly setup, and maybe 2 if it's a little more involved. So I do recognize that 4.5 hours for a monthly setup is a little crazy. But Harley Quinn's a little crazy, I'm a little crazy, it all just turned out to be a crazy month. Here I'm just putting the finishing touches on Harley with her ombre hair again. And I do just have this little paint palette that I use to scribble some of the dual marker into and then pick up a little bit with a paintbrush. You can do this with a plastic bag, a piece of saran wrap, a normal plate if you wash it pretty quickly. There's a lot of different surfaces that you can use with both a Tombow or an Amazon Basics dual brush pen and just color on it and then pick up some of the paint with a paintbrush and get that watercolor effect. The wording on Harley's hat will finish off this calendar, habit tracker, and goals spread, and then I'll be moving on to my monthly challenge for May 2021. I have been doing some kind of monthly challenge every month, and for May I have decided to put in a full fitness tracking spread to try and jumpstart my fitness journey. If you watch my 2021 setup, that was a goal, that was a very big one for me, and we are almost halfway through the year and I've totally fallen off the wagon. So hopefully for May I can get that back on track. So on the left side of the page, I am creating a fitness tracker. Down the left side in those diamonds, I will put the days of the week, Monday through Sunday. Across the top on that grid, I have created a space for each week. So week 19, 20, 21, and 22. And then I am going to be able to make notes in those little boxes, put in little symbols. At the bottom of the page, I have 4 small stars, and I will color those in. One of them is for work. I do often get a lot of exercise in my working day as an event manager. Walk will be if I take an intentional walk. The blue yoga star will be if I do yoga, and then a light pink workout star is if I do a full-blown gym workout on that day. And then I'm just putting a little doodle of Harley up here in the top right corner of this page. This was the hardest one for me to do, even switching to very small tipped Pigma Microns. Just even recreating a cartoon character on a smaller scale was pretty difficult for me to get done correctly. It's also an unusual angle because she is holding the bat out toward the viewer, but ultimately I think it came out okay. It's not my favorite doodle in the journal, but it definitely goes along with the theme. On the right side of the page, I'm going to put 2 very simple trackers. One of them is for water, up to 8+ glasses a day, and the other one is for steps, going up to 12,000+ steps a day. And again, this is going to be a very simple tracker with the days of the month down the left side, and then the numbers that I am tracking across the top. I will again highlight the weekends in blue and pink just so I know where they are, to help me find the beginning and the end of each week, and that will be it for my fitness goal tracker for May. This next spread will be my mental health and sleep tracker. I moved my habit trackers off of where they normally live next to my sleep tracker in order to put my mental health tracker here on the left side of this page. And I will link the video that I did in March on mental health trackers, which goes into more detail on this particular mental health tracker here on the left side of the page. But ultimately, I have sort of an equals sign there in the middle, and then a -1, 2, 3 on one side, and a +1, 2, 3 on the other side. And then I do have a key down here in the bottom. And in shades of gray and black, I will put on that bar graph the emotions that I'm tracking and where I fall on that particular day. And of course, here on the right side of the page, you see where my fingernail streaked burgundy all the way across the page, and I now have to clean that up with some whiteout. That doesn't want to work, so we're struggling with the whiteout as well. But it definitely was a surprise when I looked over and realized that I had scraped color from my fingernail across the page. But back to the tracker. So again, in shades of gray on the bar graph, I do track depressed, elevated, irritated, and anxious. Those are the 4 main emotions that I track with my bipolar disorder. And then I put a colored trigger on any particular day where I know one of these things took place and affected those emotions. So I tracked sleep, medications, whether I had a change in meds or if I forgot to take them, a negative event, stress, Weather, I'm particularly triggered by the weather. Sometimes that just has to do with living in the northern hemisphere. When I grew up on the equator where the sun came up at 7 and went down at 7 every day, so especially in the winter when it gets dark so early, I'm particularly triggered by weather, storms, that sort of thing. And then I do have a spot for other, just in case there's something I can't pinpoint into one of those spots. Here you've seen me put a series of diamonds across the top, and of course on one page I have written in mental with my white gel pen, and on the other side I have written sleep. And in my previous setups I have gone into my sleep tracker a little more in depth. Sometimes I do work some very odd hours with being an event manager, so I do track my sleep along with the help of the Sleep Cycle app. And I can link that again for you down below. I think I've linked it on most videos. But it does not only tell me the hours that I'm sleeping, it tells me the quality of my sleep. And then that far right column, I do occasionally check my blood pressure just to see if my blood pressure is normal that day, because it does tend to be a little higher on days that I don't get good sleep as well. And of course, because this is my mental health spread, I had to poke fun at myself just a little bit and put probably the craziest picture of Harley Quinn I could find on this page. She really does look like she's nuts here. But all the elements are the same. Her black and red outfit, her pink and blue hair. You've seen me color it a couple of times now. And then I'll do what I did on other pages and mark my weekends with the blue and pink to tie that in as well. Next up is a fairly open page. I am going to put in my brain dump page, which I refer to as my inbox these days. I don't like the phrase brain dump. And then on the right, I am going to do a migration page. I am getting close to the end of this journal. I'll have one more month that I can squeeze in after this. And then I'll have to get ready to move into another journal for the back half of 2021. And I wanted to have a page that I could track new things that I wanted to put in my journal, things that I was going to take with me into the new journal, and then things that I want to leave behind because they're not working for me. To decorate this page with the theme, I did go with the signature black diamonds and red stars. And then in the middle, I have Harley's two weapons of choice crossing one another, the mallet that we see her use in the Birds of Prey film, as well as her signature baseball bat. So while I'm setting up this page, I'm curious to know two things. One, what do you call your brain dump page? Do you call it a brain dump, or do you use a different word? And two, how many journals do you go through in a year? Do you fit it all in one? Do you go through 2? Do you go through 3 or 4? I'm curious to know how many bullet journals you fill up through the course of the year in either your personal or your work journal, or if you keep them in both. In my last video, I did talk about the pros and cons of keeping both a personal and a business bullet journal. Right now, I do need to keep those separate still, but I'm trying to find ways to streamline that. And so I will have a migration video coming up soon for both my personal journal as well as my business bullet journal. And I will be combining both of those migrations into one video so that you can see the difference between my personal and my work journal and what works and what doesn't. Alright, let's move on to the weekly. So for the first time in April, I set up on camera the entire month of April in one fell swoop, and we are going to do that again today for May. I cannot do this in my business or my work journal because I take too many meeting notes or have meetings with clients, and those daily pages need to be with my weekly and not separated. But here in my personal journal, I have discovered that I can set up the entire month all in one go and have it ready and not have to worry about it on a week-to-week basis, other than coming in and just putting things on the new week that I need to get done. I like to keep my weeklies fairly simple. I have a spot for each day, a spot for my goals for the week, and then I do have a larger area for a rolling weekly task list, which is my go-to task list. The quote I put on that first week is, "If I get mad at you, that means I still care. Worry when I don't get mad." And I particularly like that quote from Harley Quinn. For the second week of May, I am using the quote, "I don't go crazy, I am crazy. I just go normal from time to time," which also resonates with me fairly well. As you can see, I did cut a Dutch door for the rolling task list. This is my first time doing this, where I have the rolling task list for 1 week on one side and then the other week on the other. So we will definitely see if that works out well for me. I think it's going to work out just fine, but what it does do is allow me to have 2 weeks with only one artistic element, so I'm able to do just this one Harley Quinn as opposed to coming up with different art for each week. There have been a couple of months where I did not have a rolling task list on my weekly setup. I think maybe October of last year I did it, and then I did it again just this past month in April. And again, I'm halfway through the month. I'm using it. It's going okay. It's going better than it did in October for me. I was really lost in October without that rolling task list. So we'll see if I go back and forth. It definitely gives you more room on the page to have artistic elements if you don't have the rolling task list, or if you just put it on a page all by itself. But I definitely, it is part of my comfort zone. I like to have it there, even if I don't use it as heavily 1 week to the next. I am going to set up weeks 21 and 22 pretty much the same way I just did the 2 prior weeks. I'm going to color code week 21 with the pink, and I will color code week 22 with the blue from Harley's hair. But other than that, it's going to be exactly the same. I'll have that Dutch door in the middle for my rolling task list. My quote for that 3rd week of May is, "I love him not for the way he silenced my demons, but for the way his demons danced with mine." And of course, that is a quote referencing Harley's relationship with the Joker. And as you can see, when I was cutting my Dutch door, I did put in a teeny tiny notch there at the bottom right. And that is because the artistic element I have for Harley on this next page is her doing a chef's kiss, and you couldn't quite see part of the art, so I just cut a little notch in there. And then my quote for the last week of May simply is, "I'm known to be quite vexing." As you can see through all of these setups, I am a ruler user. I know there are a lot of content creators who do not use the ruler. I like it. I can do a straight line for the most part without it, but there's just something about having that crisp edge on the ruler that I prefer. And then, of course, to finish off this page, here is that little doodle of Harley Quinn doing her chef's kiss, where I had to cut a little notch so that you could just see her fingers and her lips there in the doodle from the previous page. My weeklies tend to not change very much because I have found that this is what works for me. What does change is that sometimes I move the elements around on the page. I'll put the dailies at the bottom and the rolling task list at the top, or one on one side of the page and one on the other. And that's how I change it up and keep it a little bit more interesting, but otherwise I have found that this is what works for me, and I do like to keep it pretty much in the same style. Last up is a space for my monthly playlist as well as my review page. And of course I will come in and fill these out a little bit later. I can tell you that my playlist, my Harley Quinn playlist, is already live on Spotify. I will put that in the link below. But as to which songs from that playlist I come along and actually put down on paper, I have not quite decided which of those or what order that playlist is going to appear on this page. Typically, the playlist is much longer, and then I come in and put in my favorites. And then this particular doodle is a very cheeky doodle of Harley Quinn flipping off someone in the cartoon, probably the Joker. If not the Joker, then probably Batman. Fun fact, Batman is my favorite superhero character. Incidentally, he's the one who has no actual superpowers other than the fact that he is rich and has a lot of gadgets. But I do carry a Batman wallet. I'm a very big Batman fan. And that's probably what eventually led me toward Harley Quinn here for my May setup. Quick reminder that I do put after the pen pictures on my Instagram account. Instagram is also Dots and Beyond. I will make sure and link that for you below. That is definitely where you'll see the pictures of my monthly reviews. My monthly reviews are a fun graphic sort of mix of doodles and words, phrases to sum up the month, and the things that happened not only to me personally, but things that happened around the world. And of course, I will post my playlist page when it is completed on Instagram as well. As I finish off this particular Harley Quinn with that ombre hair and a little bit of pink makeup, I hope you enjoyed this setup. Let's look back from the beginning. If you have not yet subscribed to Dots and Beyond, I hope you will take the time to go ahead and click that subscription button below. And if you would like, go ahead and turn on notifications so that you know when I do post. But at this time, I do have a new video going up mostly every Friday. I've been off schedule a couple of times, but most of the time those do fall on Fridays around 11 a.m. Please remember that all of the supplies used in this video will be linked in the description box below as well. If you made it this far in the video, you now know that my favorite superhero is Batman, despite the fact that I'm doing this fierce fictional female series. But go ahead and leave me a comment in the description box below. Let me know who your favorite superhero is, whether it's DC, whether it's a Marvel superhero, whether it's a superhero that's totally obscure that never gets enough attention. Let me know in the comments below. Next week will be my business bullet journal setup for May. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, wherever and whenever you are watching from, you too are fierce. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Here are a couple more videos I think you might enjoy.